this episode of Test Drive, we're going to put the new Carenado Cessna 182T for Microsoft Flight Simulator through its paces. We're going to stall it, steep turn it, slip it, and show some emergency procedures. Once that's all done, we'll let you know should you buy it. So stick around as this video starts now. Welcome to another test drive video. Now, if you haven't seen one of these before, this is where we take a scenery, an add-on aircraft, or even an airport in different types of simulators. We'll take them for a spin around the block. I will give you my first impressions. Is it worth you spending your hard-earned cash? So hit that subscribe button to see more weekly test drive videos or flight sim content videos such as this one. Today we are situated in a beautiful part of the world, Ocas Island Airport. This is an Orbex scenery and a perfect spot to test drive the Carenado Cessna 182. Carenado is known for their great looking aircraft and low system cockpits, so it was fitting they chose a GA aircraft for their first product for Microsoft Flight Simulator. If you're not familiar with the Cessna 182T, it's basically a turbo Skylane single engine that seats 4 people. Uses high detail cutting edge avionics such as the G1000 or the Garmin 1000. Cruise speed is 145 knots and it has a maximum range of 971 nautical miles. Taking a look at the exterior of the aircraft, where Carenado is most famous for, the 3D design of the aircraft is very accurate and true to life in my opinion. The team have used PBR materials and textures, which is physical-based rendering for you newcomers. Carenado has stated that the PBR materials authorized with industry standard software used by filming and the game industry. I really love how some of the developers write their feature list. It just makes me laugh sometimes. But what they were trying to say that it is good quality stuff. In my opinion, they have gone a little too heavy on the reflections, or at least they should have added some wear and tear of the aircraft. The 182T comes with a few liveries, but unfortunately you can't tell which one until you load up the sim. So if you like the thrill of a lucky dip in the menu system here, this is perfect for you. But for me, not so much. I would like to know what liveries my aircraft is before hitting the sim. All the usual moving parts of the aircraft are there, such as flaps, ailerons, rudders, and elevators, but for some reason I didn't film it, so I guess you'll have to take my word for it. They're all there, and the animation on them are pretty good. All in all, the Cessna 182T, the exterior is to a high standard, but it's not groundbreaking if you compare it to the default aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Welcome to the cockpit of the 182. The first thing we are going to check out is the doors and the windows, which can be open with this Carenado aircraft. Something we didn't see with the default aircraft. The animations and the sounds do look believable in my opinion, and they're pretty good. Unfortunately, no checklist have been included or taken advantage of, which is disappointing, especially for the newcomers to the sim. But they did include some Carenado views, so let's check them out. The pilot views and the instrument views. I did find that using a hat switch and trying to look right, the left view is bound to a quick view 3. So basically you have 2 left views with a hat switch, which is kind of an oversight, and I would expect these things to be double checked considering this is PAYWARE by Carenado. So let's check out a quick cold and dark startup for the 182, and then we'll jump into a quick circuit and see how she flies. With in saying that, I did find the cold and dark startup setup to be very finicky. Sometimes I couldn't even start the aircraft. The workaround I found, what I used was the AI to start the aircraft up from Microsoft Flight Simulator. Then I would shut everything down and then I would start it myself. I was thinking this was just my ignorance on how to start the aircraft, considering I didn't read any materials, but I did check with an in-real pilot who had some time in the 182, and they said when they've used the Carenado product themselves that this wasn't a normal procedure to start up the aircraft. It should start up a lot easier than what it does. Hopefully this will be fixed in a patch sometime soon. Taxiing is a breeze with the 182, and to be honest, it's probably the best thing I've taxied in the sim today. I've left all my rudder settings the same as all the other aircraft, and she turns quite well and is not too sensitive. Most of the aircraft in the sim I found are usually on either end of the scale when it comes to taxiing the aircraft. Now let's try a circuit. This will give us a good indication within 3 to 4 minutes that the flight mechanics of the aircraft are true to life and how the 182 handles with hand flying a circuit. Flying a circuit will showcase how the aircraft tracks down the runway, climbs, trims for stable flight, flows at low speed, and of course the approach. The first couple of things that we're going to be looking for is how much rudder control do I need to track the aircraft down the runway. Do I need to use too much or do I need to use not much? And this will give us a good understanding of how realistic the rudder controls on the aircraft at a higher speed other than taxi. The next thing I'll be looking for is once I lift the nose is how easy I can trim the aircraft for a climb. There we go, trim, 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 trim. It seems pretty accurate to me to get a nice stable trim. So once we get up to 300, if we're using flaps, we'll be able to pop those up, and once we get to an altitude of 500, we will make a left-hand turn and continue a turn with a continuous climb. Here we are entering our circuit height, so we're following our LAT procedures, and we're making our left-hand turn into our downward and beginning to trim for our stable circuit altitude of 1,000 feet. So couple of things I found with the 182 is that the trim seems a lot more accurate to me, in my opinion, than some of the aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Some of the other default aircraft, the trim axis seems to be quite large, where in the 182 it seems to be more realistic than some of the aircraft I've flown in real life. So we're going to quickly jump into the approach and see how the aircraft feels when we got some flap and a bit of a dirty drag going on with the 182. Here we are on our base leg. We've got one notch of flaps down. We're just about to put our second notch of flaps in. And what I'm actually trying to do to see if I can get the aircraft to fly hands off with 2 notches of flaps at a basically 70 knots. And you should be able to do this in a circuit with a real aircraft. So we're just going to make our turn to a final right now. And by doing this, you want to lose a little bit of altitude and not be any less than 500 feet, but you don't want to lose massive amount of altitude. But we've been saying that for this circuit, I'm a little bit too high, so it'll make the approach quite interesting. Here we are on approach, and what I'm looking for is seeing how the 182 handles on approach by pitching for speed and also using the throttle for your altitude, just as you would on a normal approach in real life with an aircraft. And pointing the nose down to the number, and then basically flaring and having our eyes at the end of the runway and seeing how she floats and bleeding off the speed. There we go. So a little bit rough in my heart, but I tell you what, it actually gave me a little sense of the feeling as what you would get when you're flying a real aircraft, and that's what you want to look for in the simulator. So all in all, not too bad at all for the Carenado. Now for a bit of fun, see how she handles if we try to slip her in, if we make an approach and we're too high. Yeah, not bad, pretty stable. Next thing we did was a practice landing. Basically pulled the throttle back like it was a engine out, and we'll see if we can make it to the airport just using the aircraft's gliding power, dropping all the flaps, pitching down, and will we make a safe landing? If you are looking for high-end peripherals for your new flight sim, I highly recommend checking out Virtual Fly. I have been using their yokes, throttles and rudders for over a year now, and they are still to this day helping me navigate my sim aircraft just as they did on day one. All the Virtual Fly products are made with the highest quality materials, including metal finishes and Hall effect sensors for all the professional and home sim pilots in mind. Virtual Fly have provided a 10% discount code for all the AUSFLIGHTSIMMER viewers, which can give you a 10% discount off any other discount currently running over at the Virtual Fly website. Just use code AUSFLIGHTSIMMER10, and I'll leave a link in the description of where you can check out what type of rudder pedals, throttles and yokes I use. Now let's check out a steep turn. Let's see if I can basically lock it in and get the attitude correct for a steep turn. You know when you've done a good steep turn because you get that feeling when you basically locked it in. And I was getting that towards the end of the turn, right about now. But all in all, steep turns, pretty successful with the 182. Very much like it. And now for the opposite on the right hand side, we're going to do a slow turn. And basically what I'm looking here is if I can keep the same altitude right through the whole turn and the same bank angle without too much correction on the yoke. All in all, the 182T maneuvers quite well when it comes to steep turns and low bank turns. So let's have a little bit of fun here and try to stall the 182. There we go. That stall was pretty interesting because I had a little bit of throttle in to try to produce a bit more of a stall, and I tell you what, it gave me a bit of a stall. A lot different than the aircraft that I'm used to flying. So pretty true to life in my opinion, but the 182 is a lot of fun to fly. Approaches and also turns and steep turns and stalls, all that sort of stuff. The characteristics of the aircraft seem to me pretty honest and quite true to life. So you're going to have a lot of fun flying around in the 182 if you want to really see what it can do. Time to test the autopilot out. Now in Microsoft Flight Simulator there's been some issues with the autopilot. I will tell you on before patch 1 and after patch 1 no issues for me when it comes to the autopilot. I did use Microsoft Flight Simulator to pop the flight plan into the Garmin and basically just turn the autopilot onto nav mode, and then we're going to fly at 3,500 feet. And use the VS speeds, and through the whole flight, autopilot on all occasions with the 182 was absolutely perfect. So we're going to do some flying, going for a bit of a night landing and showcase what the aircraft looks at night and have a nice evening approach into a bit of a different scene, a different airport. So let's see how she looks. We are now on approach into Tacoma Narrows Airport from Orbex. As you can see, the PBR textures on that dust look very, very nice on the exterior of the 182, and also with the night lighting. I find it very frame friendly in Microsoft Flight Simulator and also in this aircraft. So aircraft's all trimmed for a nice approach. I'm going to be quiet now so you can enjoy the landing, and I'll come back to you on my final thoughts of the 182. So my final thoughts on the Cessna 182T from Carenado for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Well, it's not a bad aircraft to be the first PAYWARE aircraft for this new sim. Remember, it's Carenado and they are known for great quality aircraft, but they're known for eye candy and very light system based aircraft. So they did utilize the Garmin, or the default Garmin G1000 from Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I guess that's probably, to me, enhanced the aircraft than what we normally see from Carenado. A couple of things would be some more liveries than just the 3 and 4 that we got, and also livery nameplates in the menu system so you could see what liveries that you chose. Would be nice to see a bit more wear and tear on the aircraft. I think the PBR textures are probably a little bit overdue, or so I would say a little bit over what it should be, because the aircraft looks too shiny in my opinion. I would say the biggest standout for me for the aircraft was the taxiing and flight characteristics of the aircraft. To me, that's where I had the most amount of fun, and I really enjoyed it, and the immersion on the flying characteristics of the aircraft seems to me pretty true to life from my experience in real life flight, and also in the simulator. So well done on that one with Carenado. The night lighting of the aircraft seems pretty good, and also just the autopilot. I had no issues. It worked completely fine for me. The FMOD sounds of the aircraft sound pretty good. All in all round, I think it's not a bad aircraft. I paid $44.95 AUD, which is not bad, because normally with a conversion rate you would pay more in Australian dollars. So it's about $20 cheaper than what we paid before. So on the Microsoft Marketplace, I actually gave this one 4 stars. And I don't have a lot to compare with, only comparing to the default aircraft within Microsoft Flight Simulator. So to me, they're about 3 stars. This one deserves 4 stars. So is it value for money? I would say yes, it is, because it might be a little while before we get another decent aircraft in the sim, and if you want something in between a bit quicker than a Cessna 172 before you get into a turbine aircraft, this will get you places and be able to get you in and out of small airports, no worries at all. If you like this video, please smash that blue thumbs up button, as it really helps out the video. And if you're new to the channel and you want to stay up to date with all the latest Microsoft Flight Simulator development news and insights, and also test drive videos like this, please hit that subscribe button. I would love to hear the comments below what you think of the Cessna 182T from Carenado, if you've got it. And also, after watching this video, what do you think? Leave a comment in the notes below. I'm going to leave you with one of my other favorite Microsoft Flight Simulator videos here. Why don't you check that one out? And I'll see you over there.